Kal Kadosh, Tzaorayim Tovim, good afternoon. I'm going to share with you an incredible shiur, which is actually part 2, about what happens with our mindsets, with our minds and our actions. Meaning, can a person ever get punished for their actions if the mind was different than the action? So I'll give you the example. The Shut Mikor Chaim brought down the question. Mishpatei Torah brought down another question. The Shut Mikor Chaim brought down the question that happened, that basically this happened around 120 years ago, which basically came out that somebody walks into somebody else's store or pub, which is in his house, and they come and they look at a barrel, and they come and they say, oh, 1 second, boom, he smashes it, he breaks it. Now, Mina Shamayim, what happened is that out of all the things that this guy had in his house, this was the only thing that didn't have a license. Meaning he didn't have permission to sell it. And all of a sudden, after the guy comes and he smashes it and it's on the floor and it's everything, they come in the inspectors. They inspect everything. Now, this thing was smashed on the floor. There's nothing what to check. Everything's broken. You know, he tells them, mind the balagan, I apologize, this and that. Okay, fine. Everything passes and he leaves. Now, if he would have actually been caught, he would have had to pay a big fine, right? A very, very big fine. So the question is, after they leave, can he now obligate this guy that just broke, that smashed his barrel, can he obligate him to pay? Or the other guy could say, listen, I did you a favor. You should pay me. But you could tell him, keep the change. Why? Because really bad. What's going on? I just saved you. You're right. My intention was to damage. But at the end of the day, what was the outcome? The outcome was something good. Rav Spitz also had the same question, very similar, right? Nowadays, contemporary. That they basically went into a store. They were selling a whole bunch of products. There was one product that didn't have a license to sell. It was a fax machine. Somebody came and he broke the fax machine. And when all the pieces are all broken, the same thing, inspectors come. So what's the halacha? So the Shut Mikor Chaim, he wanted to bring down a few Gimarot. The first Gemara was a Gemara Baba Kama that we just did in Daf Yomi, right? This Gemara Baba Kama, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Bet was, right? You could see it on page 1. On page 1, it says, by Rava, Rava comes and he says, if the animal comes and it doesn't break the utensil and it rolls around, and then it breaks, what do? Do we go after the beginning of the action or the end of the action? So they say, they bring down Rabba. If you look where it says Baba Kama, and it says underlined. Rabba comes and he says, Zarak kli merosh hagag, uba acher v'shavro b'makel, patur. Why? Imagine right now, somebody comes on the roof and they throw something down. And when they throw something down, somebody's on the bottom and they go, boom, they smash, they play baseball. He's patur. The guy on the bottom. This is why I broke something that was already broken. So therefore, even though if it's already broken, the same thing. This barrel of wine was already broken. The inspectors would have come in. They would have probably confiscated it. They would have given him penalties. So now it should be patur. So the same thing, it should be patur. Another Gemara to say that you're going to be patur is Gemara Menachot, which is the second Gemara over there where it says Menachot Samud Daled Amud Aleph. Basically, what happened is that what happens if you heard that a child drowned, and you come and you put a net on Shabbat, and you bring up, right? You wanted to bring up fish, and you did bring up fish, right? So what happened? You're going to be chayav. But if you wanted to bring up the fish, and you've brought up the fish and the child, so Rava says you're going to be chayav, and Rabba says you're going to be patur, right? Some people, they actually change it, and they say that what happens if you didn't hear that the child drowned? So Rabba says you're going to be patur because we go after your action. But Rava says you're going to be chayav, we go after your machshava, which means like this. The guy wanted to be mechalel Shabbat. He wanted to trap fish on Shabbat. It happened to be that when he trapped the fish, the child came up and he saved the child's life. Now, obviously, if he just saved the child's life, he should be patur. He just say it's mutar to save to be mechalel Shabbat to save a child. But now here you didn't hear about it. So therefore he comes and he says the fact that there's a machloket, do you go after ma'aseh or machshava? Do we go after your thought that you wanted to be mechalel Shabbat, or do you go after the action that you actually saved the child or not? So the Rambam was posek in Ilchot Shabbat like Rabbah that you're going to be patur. So it comes out that just like the Rambam, which is on the bottom of the page, the Rambam comes and he paskins that you're going to be patur. Why? At the end of the day, you did save the child. So therefore, it comes out that at the end of the day, you save the child, so you should be patur. That is the Gemara in Menachot. However, though, there's another Gemara. The Gemara Masech Nazir. The Gemara Masech Nazir is on page 2. The Gemara Masech Nazir, page 2, comes on the bottom. And the Gemara over there says that what happens if the husband did Hafarat Nedarim and she didn't know? Which means she comes and she made a neder. The husband doesn't like the neder, so he does Hafarat Nedarim. She comes and she's over on the neder. She transgresses the neder. What happens? Says the Gemara, Isha haferam v'Hashem yislachla. She needs an atonement. Why? The husband, Isha, the husband, hafaram, did the hafarat nedarim. But Hashem yislachla. Hashem still needs to forgive her. Now, what are we talking about? So it says here, B'isha shefer labala v'ilo yada. We're talking about that the husband already did hafarat nedarim and she didn't know about it. And she needs hafarah. She needs kapara and slicha. When Rabbi Akiva came to this pasuk, he started crying. Why? He said, if somebody has kavanah to get pig, and at the end he got kosher meat, if he needs kapara slicha, so imagine right now if a person wanted pig and they ate pig, so all the more so they're going to need slicha with kapara. Then there's another Gemara that's brought down, which is the same idea, that he didn't know about it, that he's guilty, and he has to carry the board burden of a sin. What happens if you have a piece of fats and you don't know if it's kosher, not kosher? So the Isa ben Yehuda comes and he says that you have two different pieces. You don't know if it's kosher or not kosher. So therefore he comes and he says, and therefore we need a mechila slicha v'chapara. Okay? Fine. Here. Yeah, this is this one. That's the next one. Yeah? Okay? So basically that's the Gemara of Nazir. So the Gemara of Nazir actually comes out that a person is going to be, he needs kapara. And that's what Rabbi Akiva needs. Rabbi Akiva came and he said, he was crying. Why you need kapara? So then there's the Gemara also, Masechet Kiddushin. The Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, which is found on page 3, right? I'm doing a very quick chazara of last shiur, and then we're going to be... So the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, the Pe'alef Amud Bet, actually brings down a story that Rav Chia bar Ashi, right, he used to pray every single day, and he used to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should always save me from the Yetzer Hara. His wife went and she said, there's something weird. He already separated from me for so many years, which means that he's already so kadosh, he doesn't even come close to me for so many years. Why is he praying like this? So she dressed up like like another woman, and she tested him. When he asked her, who are you? Because she went by him when he was learning. She went and she said a famous name of a prostitute, which was known during her days. And therefore he wanted to do an Avirah. She went and she said, go get me this thing. He had to jump up and get it. The Gemara does not actually say whether he did the Avirah or didn't do the Avirah. But what happened was that when the wife, right, when he came inside the house, he was going to go inside the oven. The wife tells her, what are you doing? He went and he told her the story. So she said, it was me. So at the end, he didn't believe her. She went and she gave him all the signs to show him that it was actually her. She did the entire thing, right? So therefore, what happened is that afterwards, right, he still said yes, but I went and I had the kavanah to do an avirah. And the fact that he had the kavanah, he was always doing taniyot, and it actually says in the Gemara that he actually died from that punishment as well, which means that he actually died in a fire. So it's actually something incredible.
He's saying that he had the kavanah, that meaning he didn't do it.
No, but the fact that he had kavanah to do the avirah, even if it was his own wife, but he had a kavanah that he was doing with somebody else. So he did the avirah. So now, no, but that's what we're saying. That means in the Gemara, it's not actually written whether we actually did go with the woman or not.
It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference because at the end of the day, he had kavanah to do an avirah, to go with somebody else, and he had the kavanah to go with the woman. So therefore, the fact that he did that, the Gemara says, but he needed a kavanah. So therefore, from that Gemara, right, and there's also there another Gemara also, which had to do with the Gemara in Kiddushin, you remember about tearing the clothing, that the father went and he tore his child's clothing in front of him to see if he was going to get angry. So the Gemara asked, what are you doing? You're going to get him angry. It's lifnei iver. He went and he said, why? Because if he gets angry at the father and he tells him off, he just made his son do an avirah. So he went and he said, no, I was mochel already from the beginning. So 1 second, what does it help to be mochel? If the father is going to be mochel, even if the son's going to come, but at the end of the day, it's like he did Avirah because he had the mindset. Right. So you see from these two Gemarot that at the end of the day, what's happening is that Akadosh Baruch Hu is coming and he's punished, meaning that we need an atonement just for the mindset. And this is actually brought down in the Rambam. The Rambam says, that's what we just said now. That's a Gemara. Right. That's Kiddushin. No, he tore the clothing. So, and the son went, and the son didn't get angry. Right. So, but the Gemara asks, 1 second, How could he have done such a thing? The fact that he put his son in such a position, he was over lifnei iver. So the Gemara answers, no. He was mochel him. So there was no lifnei iver because even if the son would have told off the father, cursed the father, if he was mochel, there's nothing there. The Gemara said, but he saw the Kavanah to do the Avirah.
Who?
The son. To get upset. And to tell off the father. So the Gemara answers, no. So that was the Tosafot there. Tosafot says, "V'tzarich lomar," you have to say that he told him beforehand. Meaning he told the son beforehand, because if he didn't tell the son beforehand, he told the son beforehand that that he was actually going to be mochel. Meaning he tells the father, if you do anything, I'm going to be mochel. Right? He comes, boom, he tears the son's clothing. It was very expensive clothing. Now, if the son's going to get upset, he already knows that the father was mochel. So therefore, he's not thinking of doing an Avirah. But that Tosafot answers. Meaning that you see though there from Tosafot, the fact that the Tosafot is telling you that he had to tell him beforehand is if not what?
Yeah,
the thought of doing Avirah.
Even
if he doesn't actually do the Avirah, but the thought of doing Avirah is already bad enough. So he comes and he says, so you see from all these things that a person does, right? That he should be chayav b'dinei shamayim, meaning that you need a mechila u'slicha v'chavara. And because of this halacha, by the way, we brought down a shmirat Shabbat k'ilchata, very important halacha l'maaseh. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach comes and he says, if you come right now and you have to take somebody to the hospital on Shabbat, and you have a choice, or you have to take somebody to a doctor on Shabbat, and you have a choice whether to take him to a religious Jew, a religious doctor, or not religious doctor, take him to the religious doctor. Why? Because if you take him to the not religious doctor, he's being Mechalel Shabbat for being Mechalel Shabbat. The religious doctor is being Mechalel Shabbat because he knows he's doing a mitzvah. So therefore, the fact that the not religious doctor is doing it because he's doing an Avirah, he doesn't have kavanah, I'm saving a Jew, not saving, he's Mechalel Shabbat anyway. So therefore, it's much better to go to the religious doctor. That's what the Rosh Hashanah Auerbach said, based upon this yesod. So now he comes and he says, it comes out.
I still don't understand what the rabbi has to do.
No, the rabbi has to go because the rabbi has to actually teach you that it's permitted and it's a must to be Mechalel Shabbat. I'm going to tell you like this. If I right now come, I actually showed, I told you this a story many years ago. There was a rabbi that went to a person to collect money for a yeshiva. Right? This was in England. And he told them it's pikuach nefesh. The guy comes and he tells him, what are you talking about pikuach nefesh? He's a non-religious guy. He goes, what do you mean pikuach nefesh? He says, if you don't put these boys in a yeshiva, you're going to lose them forever. Pikuach nefesh. I need money. And no? I don't remember if it was a Shlomo, but it was a rabbi in England that this happened to. So what happened is the guy said, I don't believe you. He says, why not? He says, pikuach nefesh is doche Shabbat. Right? So I know that pikuach nefesh is doche Shabbat. This is not pikuach nefesh. Fine, you want to put boys in yeshiva, but that's not pikuach nefesh. Okay. The rabbi kept quiet. Friday night, the guy gets a phone call. Who is it? The rabbi. The rabbi tells him, now you believe me when I tell you it's pikuach nefesh? So he asked him, how much do you need? He told him the full amount. He told him, okay, fine. He says, no, but I'm only coming Motzei Shabbat to pick up the money.
Right.
Yeah? So he went, he called him on Shabbat to show him it's pikuach nefesh. That's your answer. Huh? Yeah, the other guy wasn't religious. He wasn't a religious Jew, meaning the non-religious Jew went and he told the rabbi, I know what is pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh is doches Shabbat. This is not pikuach nefesh. The rabbi was trying to show him this is pikuach nefesh. Now, how do you show that? So the same thing. If chas v'shalom right now somebody's sick, and who are you going to call? You're going to get Roberto. Go get Roberto to take him to the hospital. Does that really show you that pikuach nefesh is doches Shabbat? You're allowed to be mechalel Shabbat to save a Jewish life? No. Or if I'm going to tell you, you know what? Take the non-religious Jew that's over there. Take him and let him go. Does that show you? That doesn't show you anything.
The non-religious Jew, I understand. But the Roberto, why not? You have Roberto.
So you hold like the Ashkenazim. The Rama says better to get a goy, unless if it takes longer. Right. Meaning, if it takes longer to get the goy or whatever it is, so the Jew should do it. But if not, get the goy to do it and to minimize Chilul Shabbat. But according to Shitat Maran, in order to show that this is pikuach nefesh and it's doche Shabbat, it's better that the Jew actually goes. The answer what Philip asked, the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Shin Kafchet, which is Ilchot Refuah on Shabbat, Sif Yud Bet says, Keshemechalelin Shabbat al chole sheyesh bo sakana. When you're going to be mechalel Shabbat on a chole sheyesh bo sakana, nishtadlin shelo la'asot al yedei. try not to do it through a goy, a child, or a woman. Ela al yedei Yisrael gedolim ubnei dat. But rather you should do it through a Jew, a Yisrael, gadol, he's above bar mitzvah, and bnei dat. The Mishabra here comes and he says, U'ksheyesh sham b'ma'amad zeh chachamim, if you have their chachamim there, mitzvah lechatchila la'asot chilul zeh al yedehem. It's a mitzvah to do it through them. Who says this? The Rambam in the Pirush HaMishnayot and the Mishnah Berurah. He comes and he says, right? He comes and he says, V'riyaz v'tashbetz v'da. He comes. Now, why? Why does it say that? The reason brought down is in the name of the Rosh. Mishum de zimnin dilitnihu, because sometimes you don't have the woman, the child, or the goy. And then you're going to start running after them. And because of that, they're going to come to a sakana. This is also, but by women, it's another reason. People are going to say, you know what? Why did you get a woman? You know why? Because you're going to say, really, be'emet, pikuach nefesh does not push off Shabbat. But if you're already going to be mechalel Shabbat, give it to a woman that she's not really, she doesn't have as many mitzvot, this. But that's why. So he says, v'itlatzlu b'davar. So they're going to be lazy. They're going to be lazy. They're going to do it. Or shema yiklu anashim b'davar v'yavo lechalel Shabbat b'makom acher. Another reason also. Maybe they're going to be mechalel Shabbat in another place. So, which means that if they're already going to be mechalel Shabbat now, they're going to say, listen, anyway, you know how it is. Women, we don't really need to do everything. We don't, we're going to be mekel. No. That's why Dafka, you're trying to get people which are Shomrei Shabbat, Dolim, not children, not Goyim, not nothing. Them. That's what Shitat Maran. The Rama says, V'yesh Omrim, some people say, that if you could do it without the Ichui U'lo Yichul Ele Shinui, do it through a Shinui. And if you could do it through a Goy, do it through a Goy. That's what the Rama says. So the Rama says, do it through a Goy. But according to Shitat Maran, no.
Is it Stam Dayesh or no?
Which one?
In this case, it's Stam Dayesh.
No, because one is Maran, one is a Rama. So according to the Rama, you should do it through a Goy. And that's what he says. Lechen noagim. That's a minhag for the Rama. The Rama. But according to Maran, says the Chazon Ovadia Chel Gimel, sheyesh lishtadel shelo la'asot al yedei goyim uktanim. Don't do it through a Goy. Don't do it through a child. Like Maran. And that's also Menuchat Ava of Moshe Levi. Same thing. Maran. Meaning Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, here in this Bet Knesset, I have to go. You're going to go to Young Israel, you're going to get the Goy. That's what you're going to get. A difference in halakha. Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. You understood? So that's what it is. Shulchan Aruch and Rama. And that's the difference. So you see that. So Shmiat Shema Kirichata comes and he says, according to this, if you now have a choice to go to a doctor, and you're going to go to a religious doctor or not religious doctor, go to the religious doctor. He says, why? Because when you go to the religious doctor, he knows he's being mechalel Shabbat to save a life. So he's doing a mitzvah. Right. When you go to the non-religious doctor, anyway, he's mechalel Shabbat. So he's not thinking about, I'm doing a mitzvah, not doing a mitzvah. So therefore, you're actually being mamechshol for him. Because his intention is for an avirah. So even though the action is a mitzvah, but his intention is an avirah.
So you mean that you're adding on his avirah?
Yes, because basically you're letting him do an intention of an avirah for an avirah. So therefore, that's why it's a problem. That's what he's trying to say.
Sick over here, not.
So lemaskana, what happened is that this rabbi that he was living already 150 years ago, he came and he gave a psak, patur midine adam, v'chayav b'dinei shamayim. What does that mean? This guy that came and he broke the barrel, because that was the case, or the guy that broke the fax machine, if you remember, that was the case. He's patur midine adam, meaning at the end of the day, midine adam, he should be patur because he broke something which was broken, right? Because anyway, they were going to confiscate it or they're going to give him a big penalties, v'chule v'chule. But midine shamayim, which means from shamayim, you needed an atonement. And that's exactly what happened. That was the psak of this rabbi. Comes a second rabbi, his name was Rabbi Shlomo HaKohen, that he was also a rabbi in Vilna in the same time frame. And he completely argues on everything that was said. One by one, he has to come and he completely destroys it. He says, why? Number one, he comes and he says, to do with the story of the Gemara, which if you remember, the Gemara was that somebody threw it down. And then what happened is that somebody broke it midair. So first of all, we went and we said, if you remember, that there was one question, which was basically the Tosafot over there, which is what happens if you threw an arrow to the utensil. You remember the Tosafot?
Right.
The Tosafot says, if you come and you shoot an arrow at a utensil, so there it's going to be a different halakha. Why? Because until it doesn't actually break it, right, you're actually going to be chayav if you break it midair. Because there's a difference between if they threw it from the air downwards, or if somebody came and he broke an arrow. You remember that was the Gemara. That's if you look on page.
You mean if you throw from the air to the ground, there is no doubt that it's going to break.
Exactly. He says, he's going to be chayav, right? And you can't say manat vira tavar. He says it's simple to be mechalek. So first of all, there are people that argue on the Tosot or not, but he comes and he answers very simple, and he says like this. He says, when they threw it down, what happened? Without my intervention of taking the baseball bat and breaking it or not, it was already broken. Why? You threw it from up there. There was nothing down below. So even if I came or I didn't come, it was already broken. Here, maybe the inspectors wouldn't have caught him. Maybe, so when he came and he broke this utensil, it wasn't broken. Maybe the inspectors wouldn't have caught it. Maybe he would have gotten away from it. Maybe there's 100 of the, maybe they could have just said, you know what, okay, next time, a warning. Whoever said. So because of that, that Gemara that says you're going to be patur because you broke something which is broken, it's incorrect. You did an action that right now you're chayav. What happened afterwards, a miracle or I don't know what does that have to do with me? You're going to be chayav. Another point was the Gemara in Menachot. You remember the Gemara Menachot is that the guy set up a trap to catch fish on Shabbat. And then he brought up the child and the fish. You remember? So he said, since he saved the child, even though he didn't know about it, but since he saved the child, it should be patur. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. He says over there, he says, you can't make him chayav skila on a doubt. He says, but if you knew for sure he was going to pick up fish first, he's going to be chayav. So therefore, he's going to be chayav skila, even if afterwards, later on, he saved the child. Because right now, if he came and his intention was to pick up the fish, right. So he brought a fish, and only afterwards does it come, and he picks up the child. He's still chayav. He didn't even know that the child was there. Right. So if he doesn't know that the child is there, which means that when he has intention of doing the averah, he did an averah. So what are you talking about then? And therefore he comes and he says, right, because of that, he comes and he says, this case is that you wanted to eat pig, and you eat the pig. And then miraculously, the pig became kosher. Right? Like just in the future, was we asked, why did it was pig? You remember we spoke about, why did it speak about pig? Because pig is the only animal that in the future it's going to become kosher. So he says, so here you thought of eating pig, you actually came and you ate pig, and now miraculously became kosher. Now you're going to be patur? For sure you're going to be patur. You should be chayav. And therefore he comes and he says you're going to be chayav bedine adam. So therefore you're chayav. You're chayav to pay back the guy of the barrel, and you're chayav to pay back the fat. And this is where we finished last week.
Yeah, once again.
Now we're going to come to, after we got the halakha l'maaseh, now we're going to come to last week's parasha, which was actually Parashat Vayhi. In the parasha, the brothers come and they throw themselves to Yosef HaTzadik. And they say to Yosef, listen, we're sorry, look what we did. He comes and he says, don't worry about it. Why? Am I instead of God? You guys thought the bad. Elohim chashava letova, but Hashem thought for the good. So, therefore, don't worry about it. Comes the Binyan Shlomo, and he comes and he says, now we understand the story of Yosef and the brothers, and why specifically Rabbi Akiva cried. You remember we said this last time. Rabbi Akiva started crying. Why was Rabbi Akiva crying out of everybody? So he brings down a midrash. Listen to this midrash. The midrash, Yalkut Mishle. In every single generation, there's going to be people, 10 people that are going to be killed because of Harugei Malchut. Asara Harugei Malchut. Every single generation you have 10. It didn't happen once. Every generation you have 10. And that's why in the Kinot, we actually mentioned 7 of them, and some of them are even different generations. Why? Because each one had different ones. Now what happened is that he comes and he says, really be'emet, he comes and he says that Rabbi Akiva was for Hashem. Why? How many people were part of the sale? 9. Who else? Who's the 10th? Hashem. Why? Very simple. Yosef cannot sell himself. So he's obviously out of the picture. How many brothers were there total? Binyamin was not there. And Reuven left. That's why when Reuven came back, he says, oh, what's going on? I just came back and he's not here. What's going on? He didn't know what was going on. So therefore, there were only 9. They added Hashem to the sale. So the fact that they came and they added Hashem, so therefore Rabbi Akiva was the 10th one, like for Hashem. But in every single generation, you're going to have 10 tzaddikim that are killed because of the story of Yosef.
How do we know? Because of the Midrash.
This Midrash, it's a Midrash Mefurash. Now, when we're talking about this, he comes and he says, now we understand, he comes and he says, that they needed a kapara. Why do they need kapara? Because the brothers. Why do the brothers need kapara? Because they did have a bad thought. So you see from here that even though at the end result it was good, because only through their selling of Yosef, good came out, lachayot amrav, that they wanted to live everybody, to make everyone live in it. But at the end of the day, they had a bad thought. The bad thought, they get punished for it. And because of that, they were punished. And that's what he comes and he says. Now, why does Rabbi Akiva cry? Rabbi Akiva cried because he was the 10th one of the martyrs. Meaning at the beginning, he thought, big deal. They thought that's something bad, but okay. Once he comes and he says that if somebody wants to come and they want to eat pig, and at the end they eat kosher, and this is what the punishment is. Which one?
The fact.
No, that was the second Gemara. The first Gemara there was somebody that wanted to eat pig, and he got kosher meat, tzleh. What happens? He comes and he says, what happens is that he's not going to come and he's not going to get punished, right? What happens? He needs a kapara. He needs an atonement. We don't punish him, but he needs an atonement from Hashem. So all the more so, if he wanted to eat pig, and he ate pig, all the more so, he's going to need an atonement. So that's why the one thing. So therefore, the explanation though is that here the brothers did eat pig at the end because they actually sold him. Meaning they wanted to do something bad and they did do something bad. They sold him. So therefore, they went and they wanted to eat pig and they ate the pig. They actually sold him.
Right.
Afterwards, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it kosher, the pig kosher, you remember we spoke about this, about making the pig kosher because now it was good what he did. But that was afterwards. Right now, they need an atonement. So because of that, Rabbi Akiva was crying because now he realizes what's going to happen to him, that it was going to be such a bad consequences because now he has to be the atonement for the Shekhinah. So page 6 says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Ve'atem hashavtem alai ra'a. You guys thought bad about me. But Elohim chashava l'tovah. But Hashem thought that it was good. Why? In order to come and save the entire nation. ואתם חשבתם רע, והרי זה דומה למתכוון להשקות חברו כוס מוות, ישקעו כוס יין, שאינו מתחייב כלום. Says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, imagine right now, I wanted to give him ketchup, and really it's poison. I had kavanah to give him poison. Yeah? Yeah? Are you listening? So what happens is at the end, it was ketchup. See, exactly. At the end, though, it wasn't poison. It was ketchup.
Right.
Am I chayav?
So the intention was to give ketchup?
No, the intention, was to give poison. And then I gave ketchup.
Okay.
What's halacha? Nothing. Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the intention was to give your friend samamavet, poison. But at the end, you gave him wine. Right. Are you going to be chayav? You're not going to be chayav anything. That's what he says. So now everyone asks, 1 second. How does then how does the Or HaChaim HaKadosh say that? What about the Gemara with Rabbi Akiva?
Right.
The Rabbi Gemara with Rabbi Akiva. So on the bottom, on page 6, on the bottom, you have something which is called Or Yakar. The Or Yakar is an explanation on the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. And he says, 1 second, we say in Parashat Matot, that when a woman comes and she makes an oath, and then she goes against her oath, Vashem Yislach La, and the Gemara says that that's like Ki'ilu, that you wanted to eat pig. And then afterwards you went and you wanted to eat meat. So then what? He says, it's not comparable. He says, why not? He answers the answer of what Philip answered. He says, Yesh lomar de lo dami klal. You cannot compare the case of Yosef HaTzadik and the brothers with the case of the Gemara. He says, why not? The Shvatim didn't want to do an Avera. They were doing a mitzvah. Why? Because they
King
made,
of people.
they actually made a psak din.
Right.
They made a bet din. As the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh says in Parashat Vayhi, with the opposite. They did chesed that they didn't kill him. Meaning, really bad man, they should have killed him. And the fact that they didn't kill him, that was the chesed. And the second answer, the odd, that even if they did have kavanah to do an avirah and then it came out the opposite, you don't have to do only vidui dvarim velakir chet'o. And you have to ask from Hashem to do teshuvah. Vegam hashvatim yitvadu kama pamim. Your two answers is already answered on the answer of the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh. He said that they did it. They went and they said, Aval Hashem im anachnu ha'elohim matzanat. Hashem found the sin of your servants. We are guilty. So therefore, what's going on over here? So therefore, they're actually zakaim badin. So it doesn't make sense even. Like what's going on, right? So he comes in. So here they don't need a kapara. That is the answer of the Or Yakar. There's another answer of the Pardes Yosef. Look on page 7. Pardes Yosef on the left side. Pardes Yosef on the top left, right? Remember, I'm only reading the underlines. So he says over here, when we're talking about, he comes and he says like this. He says, "Dematzinu pe'amim shepen adam ne'enash al machshava ra'a, Hashem yizberach yodea machshavo v'neshar la'avera kemo v'dei avodah zarah. מה שאין כן בן אדם לחברו, אפילו יחשוב לרעה, אינו מזיק מחשבתו, אחרי שעל ידי זה אינו מגיע הזק לחברו." Comes the Pardes Yosef and he gives an incredible chidush. Listen to this, but hold on to your chairs. He wants to say like this. He says, when do we say that if you wanted to do an averah, and then at the end it wasn't an averah, that you still need to do teshuvah? Like the case that you wanted to eat pig, and at the end you ate kosher. You still need to do teshuvah. Because you had the intention, but that's only to do with Hashem. Why? Because with Hashem, He knows our intentions. With my friend, ben adam lechavero, as they say, they don't know my intention. So even though my intention was to mess him up, but at the end, it actually helped him. I wanted to mess him up. I said, L'Shem yichuk chabrichu, L'Shem yichuk chabrichu, I want to mamash, I don't know what. But at the end, something good came out of it. He says, you don't have to do teshuvah for that. Because at the end, what was the end result? That's what he said. No, to your friend, you don't need to do teshuvah for that. Because at the end, they don't know your intention. They don't know your intention. So since they don't know your intention, nothing actually happened to your friend. That's what he says. He brings down the Sefer Ol Yaakov, right? Atem chashivtem elai ra'ah, rak alai ve'elokim chashva lachiyot emnav. So he says, v'nodat miya olam. Everyone asks on the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh. The shoot bet Yitzchak was mechadesh. Tedavka benitkaven la'avero v'asa reshut chayav b'dinei shamayim v'gabel. Aval im asa mitzvah patur. Meaning this. Another difference. He comes and he says this. When do we say that if you thought of doing an averah and then you didn't do an averah, that you're going to be, right, that you need an atonement?
You did not do.
You did not do an averah, but you still need an atonement. No, you still did. You didn't change your mind. But what happened was it wasn't an averah. You got the kosher at the end.
It's not that you change your mind.
Yeah, no, you still had the mind of doing an averah. But when you did something of reshut, which means you didn't do a mitzvah, you did nothing. Like the case that you wanted to eat pig, and at the end you eat kosher. You don't need to eat kosher or not eat. You don't need to eat at all. So therefore, you're still gonna be chayav. You have to do teshuvah. But what happens if not only I didn't do an avirah, but I did a mitzvah?
At the end, it became a mitzvah.
At the end, it became a mitzvah. Meaning, not at the end, nothing happened.
The fisherman.
Like the fisherman. So he comes and he says that's the explanation of the levush. The levush brings down somebody that has hatred onto somebody else. He could actually come, and his wife could actually come and make him make a mistake, that he's thinking that he's having relations with somebody else, and it's going to be permitted. V'tamua, they says, you need kapara, right? So he comes and he says, no, because really, bemet, he was doing a mitzvah of pirya v'rivya, and therefore you don't need kapara. Meaning, right, what happened is that the wife came, and she tricked her husband that she was somebody else.
Right.
And now what happens? Right? And now at the end of the day, you should tell him, 1 second, you had the avirah in your mind, you should do teshuvah, says the levush, but it just wasn't the same case like you wanted to eat pig and then you eat kosher. Because eating kosher is not a mitzvah.
Right.
You didn't do an avirah.
Right.
Here, you did a mitzvah of pirya v'rivya. You did a mitzvah of procreating, of having more children. So therefore, when you do such a case that you're going to do a mitzvah, So what happens? In such a case, he says, you don't even need to do teshuvah. You don't need to do teshuvah. That's a levush. The levush comes and he says it. An incredible yisod. Ubemet en kamen tema klal. He says the Shvatim did not want to do any type of Navirah. They only wanted to do a mitzvah. So the Pardes Yosef says the same answer we said before. They didn't want to do a Navirah. They wanted to do a mitzvah. Look in Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and look also in the Sforno, that they actually judged them to kill him because he wanted to kill them. So they wanted to kill him. So therefore, what are you talking about then? And then it says, but there's a Zohar HaKadosh. And there's a Midrash that they were punished. So if they were punished, why were the brothers? The brothers were punished.
Where?
Well, all the Sarah Haruge Malchut is always because of the brothers.
Right.
Meaning at the end of the day, there was a punishment. So why is there a punishment? He comes and he says, Yesh lomar, Hashem medatek im tzadikim kechut ha'sa'ara. Hashem is so meticulous with the tzadikim that he punishes the tzadikim, and therefore, in the eyes of human beings, it was an avirah. But really, Be'emet, they didn't do an avirah. Meaning like this, really, Be'emet, what he wants to answer is, Be'emet, the brothers did not do an avirah whatsoever. According to their mind, they didn't do an avirah, they were doing a mitzvah. But Hashem is so meticulous with tzaddikim, even on something which is not really 100% an avirah, he comes and he's going to punish them on it.
Yeah,
For example, like the case.
Well,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, this was the case, that at the end of the day, it was considered an avirah on their level. Meaning, really, it wasn't an avirah. But Hashem, where do we see such a concept, by the way, you should know? We see this by David HaMelech. David HaMelech, the Gemara actually says that anybody that says that David HaMelech sinned with Bathsheba, he's making a mistake. Why? She actually had a get. So she had a get, meaning she had a divorce. So why was it an avirah? Yeah, on his level, it was considered like an avirah. Meaning on him, who he was. But really, Be'emet, if you're actually going to say, was it an avirah? And I'm going to give you an incredible yesod on this week's parasha. I was actually thinking of going this Motzei Shabbat downstairs. Yeah, what happened was, I'll tell you first the story. There was a rabbi, right, that he was a mashkiach, Rav Chasma, that every single Motzei Shabbat he used to come to the yeshiva and he used to give a long Dvar Torah. Even until today, I remember my mashkiach also used to do the exact same thing. What happened is that when did they start the Dvar Torah? They used to start the Dvar Torah a few minutes after Rabbeinu Tam, because my rabbi waited for Rabbeinu Tam. He lived in Beit Vegan. Immediately after Rabbeinu Tam, he would get in his car, drive to us, and then they would start the thing. Now, we already did Arvit. We didn't even do Arvit.
Really?
Right? We didn't even do Arvit yet. We did Arvit after the Dvar Torah, and the Dvar Torah was not a 20-minute Dvar Torah. Sometimes it was an hour. Now, but some boys used to come, they used to do Baruch HaMadim Kol Shechol, and then they used to write the shiur. But here, we weren't talking about that case. What happened is that the rabbi went and he caught that a boy was smoking. Meaning the boy went and he started smoking. So what happened listen to this, right? What happened
Cigarette?
Cigarette. He was smoking a cigarette. So what happened is that the rabbi went, he saw him, he didn't say anything. After the shiur, he comes to the boy. And he comes and he tells him, can I ask you a question? He says, okay. Says, why was Reuven punished?
Yeah,
Reuven was punished. What did he do wrong? The Torah says, Pahas kamayim al totar. You went too quickly. What was the avirah and what he did? He went so quickly. What was the avirah? Where does it say in the Torah you're not allowed to go quick? You know, some people, they're always running. They're always doing things very quickly. Where does it say in the Torah, Asur, you're not allowed to? He comes and he says, you know what the answer is? There is no Isur in the Torah. But the fact that he went so quickly, and therefore it's not fitting of him to go so quickly, he was punished. So he comes and he turns to the boy and he says, if I'm going to now tell you right now, what was the Isur that you did, that you started smoking before my shiur? The Isur, there's no Isur. You for sure said, Baruch HaMavdim Ben Kodesh L'chol. It was after Shabbat. There's no doubt. There's no doubts. But you were pachas kamayim. You were too quick. Why? If you could have waited the entire Shabbat not to smoke, you could have waited another 5 minutes or 2 or whatever it is. You could have waited another bit, and you wouldn't have been able to not smoke. So I was going to say that this Motzei Shabbat, because there was a whole group of people that they wanted to do early Arvit in order to get out. Right. So I was going to say the same thing. Can you tell them, no, there's a lot of people that are...
By the Joan?
Yeah, so he says, if you're going to tell me now, I see the cameras, I see exactly who's downstairs. Yeah, so what happens is like this. You know what the problem is? The problem is that when people that are
Shabbat was finished.
no, Shabbat are finished. But meaning that they want to do an early Arvit in order to get out quickly. So I was gonna tell them this is all. I was gonna tell them if you're gonna tell me that you're doing an Isur, they're not doing an Isur. It's already after Shabbat. It's already there's no Isur. But the Pachas Kamayim you have there. You have the Pachas Kamayim. And that's already enough that a person should just learn from there. Just understand. Okay, fine. That is the answer of the Pardes Yosef.
Go downstairs.
Yeah, so now he comes and he says, he comes and he says, huh? There's no Isur, but there's a Pachas Kamayim. What's a Pachas Kamayim? Why are you being so quick?
What did you gain to do that?
You understand? Why are you going so quick? That's the question. Okay? Fine.
Look at the phone. Yeah.
Now he says, everybody has a flight. All of a sudden you have 25 people downstairs that can't move. They all have flights on Motzei Shabbat.
Restaurant reservation.
Restaurants are not allowed to open up until an hour after Shabbat.
Oh,
You understand?
Shalom Bayit, Shalom Bayit.
Yeah. Now on page 8, we're going to learn the Sefer Shem Derech. Shem Derech is basically the Sefer of Simcha Zitza Broida, the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron. So there he comes, Hebron, on the bottom of page 8. Okay, it says over there, the top also is the same idea about the difference between Ben Adam LeChavero and Ben Adam LeMakom. Meaning, when you think of doing an Avera, right, you need teshuvah, that's Ben Adam LeMakom. But if it's going to be between you and your friend, technically maybe you don't need to do teshuvah. That's what we were asking, right? On page 8, but Torah Kedosha, we did not find anything against the brothers. And even afterwards, Shifteka were always on their level. But the Navi and Amos says that there was a tviyah against the brothers, that they sold their brothers, that they sold the tzaddik. So therefore, this was actually, they were selling a tzaddik. So what's going on then? So he comes and he says, okay? So he comes and he says like this. He says, right? He comes and he says like this. He says, the Rabbeinu Bachya comes and he writes that since it's not written in the Torah mefurash, right, that Yosef actually forgave them, right? Therefore, they didn't have a forgiveness. And that's why he says, but he never actually said that I forgive them. Nevertheless, we don't see that Bemet Yosef actually forgave them. So that's why they were punished. Now, Ashkafat Yishonah, we actually come and say, once again, how do you know such a chidush? How do we know that Ki'ilu it's mashma that he did? Because it's mashma in the Torah that he said, don't worry about it. If I come and I tell you, Mechila, say, no, don't worry about it. What does that mean? I forgive you. That's what it says. He says, no. So he says, but we didn't see that we said it in his mouth. Because he says, Vayom Hashem salachti kidbarecha, like your words. So which means that you have to say mefurash, salachti. So therefore he comes and he says, that's why he actually says in the Rambam also in Yichot Shuvot, Ben Adam levechavero, Yirtzehu means that he's agreeing to it, that he's happy with him, that he's actually. So therefore he comes and he says that's a yesod. So now we're going to finish the shiur, meaning that according to Rabbeinu Bachya, the way that he's saying is that the real punishment was not on the sin what they did, it was that they, meaning even if you're going to say that it was an avera, they did teshuvah. No, he didn't say mechila. The fact that he didn't say the words "I mochel you," they were punished. Because he told them, don't worry about it. It's not enough. I need to hear the words, you are mochelli. Ani mochelech. That's what you have to hear.
So meaning if you would have said mochel,
then nothing would have happened. Nothing would have happened.
Because the intention at the beginning was...
Yes, 100%. Okay? Now, look at page 9. That was Rabbeinu Bachya. Okay? Now we're going to go to page 9. Page 9 comes, and he says like this. This is a sefer called the Talmudo Biado. And in the Talmudo Biado, he comes and he says, in Isha Fenam, why is it that you needed tzilicha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So he come and he said the reason why is because this woman, she had in her mind to rebel against Hashem.
What case?
In the case of that the woman, she thought that she made a neder, and she didn't know that the husband annulled it. And then she went and she did the Averah. So she thought she was doing an Averah, right. and she needs an atonement. Right. And that's why Rabbi Akiva was crying. So he says, why? Because in her mind, she rebelled against Hashem. And since in her mind she rebelled against Hashem, she needs an atonement. So he comes and he says, this has to do with us every single day. Listen to this. Every single day, this happens to us. He says, why? he says, imagine right now, a person wants to eat basar chazir, for example, and then at the end they got kosher. So for example, you come and you open up a newspaper or you go on a website. Now, you could know that maybe your eyes are going to start looking at something that maybe they shouldn't see seeing. So even if at the end of the day, Baruch Hashem, was an art school website, and there was nothing actually wrong with what you saw. Yeah? Yeah? One second. Yeah? So what happens? So he comes and he says, at the end of the day, right, the fact that you thought of doing something of an isur, you had the kavanah. So therefore, or he comes and he says, you go to a place where they have a questionable hashkacha. You're not sure if the food is 100% kosher, not 100% kosher. So you come in. Now, even if at the end what they served you was halak bet Yosef, and it was yashan, and everything that you want. But at the end of the day, you went to a place where it's questionable. So for the fact that you went to a place where it's questionable, even if at the end you did eat kosher, in your mind, you are going to be eating chazir. You're going to be eating something which is not good. That means you're going against Hashem. So therefore he comes and he says, but one second, but I thought that Hashem does not mitzaref machshava ra'ah, meaning Hashem doesn't combine your bad thoughts. Meaning right now, I'm going to ask you a question. Somebody thinks of doing an avirah. They're going to speak Lashon Hara. Do they get punished for that? I thought that you don't get punished for that. In the Akdama of the Trumat Akri, he comes and he brings down to do Masechet Kelim, and he says that if you have a machshava, a thought process, right, that it's not enough. So the Ramah Mifano comes and he says, in Asara Ma'amarot, now we understand what happened by Naaseh v'Nishma. Listen to this. Naaseh v'Nishma. Israel came and they said, Naaseh v'Nishma, they became tied to a Kadosh Baruch Hu with two knots. Meaning we made like a knot with a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We tied the knot. What is tying the knot? When you get married. So you made tying the knot twice. Naaseh v'Nishma, two knots. He comes and he says like this. When a Jew comes and is over an Avirah, you open up one knot. And then he says, and when you do the Avirah second time around, you opened up the second knot. And that's why Chazal come and they say that when you do an Avirah once and twice, hutralo. We thought that hutralo means it becomes permitted for him. The Gemara asks, does it really become permitted? It doesn't become permitted. It means that Keilu becomes permitted. Keilu becomes permitted. It says, no, hutralo means you disassociated, you opened up the knots. Now you're not tied up to Hashem anymore. So therefore, since you're not tied up to Hashem anymore, it comes out that now, even though you're going to come, right? Even though you're going to come and you're going to not do the Avirah in the end, you get punished for your thoughts. Did you just see what I said? Yeah. Meaning, it comes out that now that you're not tied up to Hashem anymore, the fact that you untied yourself from Hashem, if you think of doing an Avirah after twice, if you think of doing an Avirah, even though you don't do it in the end, it's considered that you did it. Because you're not tied up to Hashem anymore. So for Ki'ilu, it's hutralo. What does it mean, Ki'ilu hutralo? It becomes that you're doing that. So he says, now we understand the entire concept of machshava, which is nitzaref l'maaseh. When you came and you thought of eating pig, and at the end you got kosher, your machshava at the beginning was what? Was bad. But it's only in your machshava. So for maybe you could do teshuvah. But he says, right, but that's only if it didn't come out to do an action. But what happens right now if you did do an action?
So before he changed his mind, he didn't change his mind, he did the action.
He did the action. But no. So now you add it, and what happens if you didn't do the Avirah?
He changed his mind.
No, he didn't change his mind. But you gave him kosher. He thought he was getting non-kosher, right, and you actually gave him kosher. So therefore, but what happens if he thought of eating pig and he did eat pig? He did eat pig. He says he needs teshuvah on his mind also. So he comes and he says, you understood? Right. So now he comes and he says, now we understand when there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to be mitzaref machshava to maaseh. Bishat Kabbalat Torah, we became connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore we always have the chance that we could do teshuvah. Once we do it twice, that's it. We disconnected with Hashem to do with that Avirah, and now we're going to be punished on the thought, even though we didn't do the Avirah. He comes and he says, but a goy automatically is going to be punished because he's not connected to Hashem. So for sure he wanted to do the Avirah. So now he comes and he makes a sikum. He makes a summary. Listen to the summary. All right, one more time. Summary. Number one, machshava Rabbi Israel. If somebody has, or I'm on page 9 on the left side where there's a hand, on the left side. If somebody comes and he has a bad thought in his mind for a Jew, it's not going to connect for a Jew, and he doesn't get punished. If he does it twice, it is. It's mitzaref l'maaseh. He's going to be punished for it. On the same Avirah, he's going to be punished for it. If right now he had a bad thought and it was avodah zarah, he gets punished for it. That's even on the first time. You remember? The Gemara says that even on the first time you get punished. If it's machshava tova for Israel, that means he had a good thought, he gets a reward for it. If it's a bad thought of Israel, but then it came to a maaseh mut'eh, which means that it was a mistake. That means he got kosher at the end. So he needs kapara. If it's a machshava ra'ah for a goy, so he needs, it's mitzaref l'maaseh. That means he gets punished for it. That means even though he only had it in his mind, he gets punished for it because he's a goy. Machshava tova for a goy does not mitzaref l'maaseh, does not go to the maaseh. Because he doesn't have the knot, double knot to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore he comes and he says, that's the explanation, right, of the Kal Vachomer, right, of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, a Kal Vachomer. What was a Kal Vachomer of Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva says, if somebody wanted to come and they wanted to eat pig, and at the end they needed kosher, they still need kapara. All the more so if you're going to want to eat pig and you ate pig, all the more so you need a kapara.
It's not a chidush.
It's not a chidush. Hey, you did an avirah. What's a chidush there? He comes and he says, no, that was an explanation. Rabbi Akiva was mechadesh in halachot of schar ve'onish. Listen to this. This is one of the most important parts of the shiur. Rabbi Akiva wanted to be mechadesh. He wanted to give a novelty on reward and punishment. And he says, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be mitzaref machshava l'maaseh, if you didn't actually sin. But he says, but if you actually, why? Because then you're going to be exempt from the punishment. Right? But now not only are you going to be punished for the achilah, now you're also going to be punished for the machshavana. That was the chidush of Rabbi Akiva. The chidush of Rabbi Akiva was somebody went, and that's why he comes and he says machshavto, and that's why he says somebody that Allah biyado, it came up to his hand, the tleh. What does that mean? Meaning like this, according to Rabbi Akiva, what's the chidush? The chidush is you have a person that he wanted to eat pig, and then at the end, what did he eat? He ate kosher. Okay, fine. Says Rabbi Akiva, if on that case he still needs slicha v'chapara, but what did he eat at the end of the day? At the end of the day, in his body, there's only kosher. So why does he have to have a kapara? Because he rebelled against Hashem. Because in his mind, he did an avirah against Hashem. He rebelled against Hashem. He needs kapara. Says Rabbi Akiva, so when a person wanted to eat pig and he did eat pig, not only does he need the kapara and slicha and everything for eating the pig, all the more so kal vachomer you need it on the mind because you rebelled against Hashem as well. That was the kal vachomer. Meaning, I would have thought that if you're going to tell me now, what does the person get the punishment on? Eating pig. So no, not only on eating pig, and on the thinking of how to eat pig and what you wanted to eat. That's the chidush of Rabbi Akiva. The chidush of Rabbi Akiva is that even on your thoughts, you're going to be punished because you wanted to do it and you actually got it. So if even on the thoughts, you're going to be punished. That is the biggest chidush. So he comes and he says, imagine what type of an avirah there was that it actually completely takes a person out. So that's why, to make a very, very quick summary, it actually comes out actually very, very beautiful of what we mentioned. First of all, to do with the halacha, we brought down a malachloket, but at the end of the day, we brought down a halacha l'maaseh that a person is going to be chayav b'dinei adam, that if somebody comes and he breaks the barrel of wine, right, and afterwards, even though after breaking the barrel, it was an illegal barrel and therefore he saved the money, he's still chayav to pay it. The guy came and he broke the fax machine, and the fax machine was actually illegal. He didn't have the permits to sell it. And therefore, the inspectors came immediately afterwards and he saved the guy money. So he could tell the guy, why am I going to pay you? I saved you money. Well, I have to pay you, you have to pay me. He said, no, you're chayav to pay back. Even though afterwards something good came out of it, you're chayav to pay it back. That was the first halacha, which is halacha l'maaseh. Then we went into the entire story of Yosef and the brothers. And we started bringing back and forth what happened with Yosef and the brothers. So we went and we started saying that according to some shitot, they actually bring down that Yosef and the brothers was actually an avirah. Why was it an avirah? Because they thought of doing an avirah, and they actually did an avirah. And the proof, that's why they have to do teshuvah. And that's why they were punished. And every single generation, you're going to have 10 people coming and being killed because of that avirah. Other people want to come and say, no, they never wanted to do an avirah. Right? Why? Because they wanted to do a mitzvah. They were doing al piyah psak betin. They did a betin. They said, no, we have to come and we have to kill him because he wants to kill us and he wants to do all these things. So therefore, they weren't doing an avirah. So why were they punished? They were punished because he didn't forgive them outright. He didn't say, I'm mochel. And they were punished because of their level, that in their level, it was so high up that that's why they were punished. But really, they shouldn't have been punished. They shouldn't be punished in such a fashion, right? In such a case. But again, in all these cases, though, it actually comes out that we actually learn, right, the importance of what it is, the machshavot of a human being. Because according to your thoughts, that's what's going to happen. So now it comes out like this. What is the sikkum? Very, very good. If the first time around you came and you thought of doing an avirah, and you didn't do it, what happened? Whatever reason. you never get punished for it. If you thought of doing an Avirah, and you did the Avirah once, and then you did it twice, from then onwards, you're punished for the Avirah. Even for the thought, even though you didn't do it, you're punished for it. Because once you broke the two ksharim, the two knots that we have with Hashem, that's it. There's nothing what to do. So a person gets punished. If a person thought of doing an Avirah Avodah Zarah, even the first time he's going to be punished. Right? That's what we also said. The next one was, not of the Avodah Zarah, the next one was, what happens if a person thought of doing an Avirah and they did do the Avirah? So they get punished also for the thought. Not only just for the action, for the thought. If they got kosher instead of the not kosher, so then they don't get punished. They need a kapara, but they don't for the machshava, but they don't get punished for the actual maaseh, for the action. A goy is completely different. Sorry, I forgot the last one. Machshava tova for a Jew, it's mitzaref l'maaseh. Meaning that if you thought to do a mitzvah, it's considered you did a mitzvah. The other one was, what happens right now if you thought a goy? So if a goy thinks to do a mitzvah, it's nothing. If he thinks to do an avirah, it is considered an avirah. Why? But since the goyim are not connected to Hashem, so therefore automatically he probably wanted to do the avirah and he just didn't do it because he was honest. He was force majeure, and that's why he didn't do it. So that was just a very, very quick summary on everything that we learned until